everyone. Welcome back to EST. We've got a good show for you today. Hopefully, it's good content. I cannot really vouch for the integrity of our guest today. His name's Art Rayner. He is my brother, and I would love just to share all sorts of stories from our childhood. But the only problem with that is he knows just as much about me as I know about him. So that's a bit of an issue for me. So no dirt, no mud slinging today, Art. All right. Is this your first time on EST?
No, apparently the last interview that I had on EST left an amazing impression on you, and so the answer
When
is
was
no,
that?
huh? I don't know, but I've been on it, but before I may have been on it multiple times actually, Sam. So man, I feel so welcomed and loved and appreciated, right just from the start here. This is great.
All right. All right. So um I'm glad. I'm very glad. Before we get into this topic, which is a very important topic, and Art is a subject matter expert on financial matters, particularly personal finance. I certainly want to talk about our sponsor. Thank you, church teams, for sponsoring the show. Hey, Boyd was on the show last week. So Boyd's the co-founder of Church Teams. So if you have not had a chance to go and listen to that episode, he had so much practical stuff to share about just technology and communication in the church. It was a really good episode. I'd encourage you to go listen to it. But if you're looking for a good offer from Church Teams, go to est.church. They've got a great church management software package. If you need it, they can do it. They're just one of those companies that offers a full slate of everything when it comes to church management software. So texting, giving, check-in, scheduling, all that stuff. They do it. They've also got a new app, which is really cool. But go to est.church to get the offer. It's 2 months free. So this is really a risk-free endeavor. But Boyd's your guy. If you have technology needs in the church, which I know you do, Boyd is the one to talk to. So est.church for that offer. Thank you, church teams. Thank you, Boyd, for sponsoring the show. And Art, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be back on the show, Sam. Glad to be back. I'm
All
back.
right. All right. So I'm going to jump right into this. You do money. That's a bit of a bit of an oversimplification. You do money. I'm just going to go ask the question: should pastors care about making more money?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when you say that I do money, so I have a company called Christian Money Solutions, and our mission is to help people discover and pursue God's design for money. So that discover piece, we believe that God has a design for your finances, that he entrusts us with his resources for a reason. It's why we find over 2,000 verses on money, possessions, and stewardship. It's why Jesus spoke on money more than any other topic while he was here on earth. So we believe that God has a design for our finances. And so we want people to understand that, to understand what the Bible has to say about money. Then we want to help people practically pursue that, practical ways to pursue that design. And so we provide practical steps on how to do that, content curriculum that is geared toward that. We want to see people get financially healthy for the sake of advancing God's kingdom. That's what we're all about. That's our passion. And so that's what Christian Money Solutions is all about. It's why we exist. So back to your question, though. Should a pastor care about their salary? Yeah, there should be some level of concern. Now, does a minister, does a pastor get into ministry for the money? Not if they're not if they're smart, right? I mean, ministry is not the place where you're going to make a ton of money. No, they get into ministry for the mission. They get into ministry because they love Jesus, they love his word, and they love his people. And so they feel that they have been called into full time, or maybe even we'll talk about co-vocational ministry here in a little bit, but they feel like they've been called into ministry in some capacity. And so are finances their primary driver? No, they're certainly not. But is it important to concern yourself with with your finances? Yeah, and concern yourself with the salary? Yes, because it has such a ripple effect on other areas of your life. This is not something that you can just simply ignore. So the answer is yes, they should certainly care about their salary.
Okay, so pastors should care. And you're right. No, if you're smart, you don't get into ministry for the money. You know, I guess there's a handful of celebrity pastors out there that make a lot of money, although I don't know what they make, so I can't say that for certain. But for the vast majority of pastors and church leaders and those who are in ministry, obviously it's not as lucrative as perhaps some other fields. But I do think that this is so. How do you manage what is a modest salary? So that's what most pastors will make, is a modest salary, or if the bivocational, co-vocational, very part-time salary. How do you manage your financial goals and what you know is wise with the fact that, hey, I just may not make a lot of money for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years? What would you tell a pastor?
Yeah, so certainly the financial goals should be reflective of your current reality. As an example, I was talking to or communicating with a pastor who was desiring to buy a house. But the problem was the salary. The salary was on the lower end, and they were already living paycheck to paycheck. He was working. His wife was a stay-at-home mom with their one child, and that's what they desired. That structure. That's what they desired moving forward. But it put them in a place where they were living paycheck to paycheck, and so he was trying. He asked the question: how can I buy a home? How can I save up for a home? Put down that down payment, given my current financial situation. And my answer was, there's nothing magical that I can say. There's not an easy button that I can push for you. The reality is that because of the path that you're on, which is a great path. Well, let me back up even further. First of all, I told him what you're doing is incredible. I said there's no shame in your situation. So you are serving Jesus and you're putting food on the table. That in and of itself is honorable. That in and of itself is an amazing thing. So don't belittle that just because you can't pursue some of these other financial goals. Don't look over the fact that you're serving Jesus and you're putting food on your table for your family. That's awesome. That's a great thing. But as it relates to buying a home, it's going to probably take a long time for you to get there, given your current financial situation. So creating margin in your budget is going to be difficult, and then saving an amount needed to get a down payment that allows you to get a loan that you can actually afford. Once again, it's not going to be easy for you. So there is a reality that your financial goals have to adjust to your reality. And so, how can a pastor pursue their financial goals that they laid out? Well, first of all, it's about setting appropriate goals from the onset to acknowledge your current reality. But also having any type of plan can help. I of course recommend the 8 Money Milestones. It's a guide that I've used now for quite a while to help others on their financial journey. It starts with Money Milestone 1, which is to start giving. Why do we start there? Well, because the Bible starts there. And then it walks a person through 7 different steps from there that helps you get financially healthy for the sake of living and giving more generously. Now, this path is going to be quicker for some than others. And so for a pastor that's living paycheck to paycheck on a very minimal salary, it's just going to take a little bit longer. But once again, that's okay. That's okay, because you're doing some great things. And this moment here on earth, it's going to be a blip, right? It's just a quick moment, and then we're off into eternity. And so, even if you can't do everything that you hope in this lifetime, that's going to be okay. You're serving Jesus. You're putting food on the table. Praise God for that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll even talk to kind of the emotional side of this, what people feel, And sacrifice is frustrating.
Yeah.
Let me just put it that way. It's frustrating. You're making a sacrifice to go into ministry to make less than what you would make. When you compare the hours worked, the difficulty of the job, the education level required, all of those things, you add up all of those things, and ministers or pastors make significantly less than other people in other fields.
Right.
And that is the sacrificial side of ministry. We all know that that's what it entails. You get into it, for the most part, you get into it knowing that. And it's frustrating. It's difficult. It's challenging. So
Because
I'll just,
we also live in the wealthiest nation in the world, right? And so we're regularly seeing wealth all around us, which kind of makes that frustration even greater. Because as much as we don't want to compare ourselves to others, and as much as we know that creates dissatisfaction in our own life, it is so very hard not to do that. So even as pastors, as ministers, you're looking around you and you're constantly comparing yourself, and it adds to that frustration. So you're in a context that is incredibly wealthy from a global standpoint, which once again increases the stress and the frustration that the ministers often experience.
talk about stress. I'm sure you've done some counseling, financial counseling for pastors and the stress that they experience because of their financial situations. What do you see, and what do you tell these pastors?
Yeah, so I do financial counseling specifically for those in ministry. So I only have a limited number of hours that I can commit weekly to financial counseling, these one-on-one sessions with individuals and couples. And because of that, I've decided to focus on ministers. For me, it's mission critical, because I believe that if we can get ministers financially healthy, then they're more likely to lead their congregation to do the same, which then once again, there's a multiplication effect, a multiplier there. You get more people financially healthy with the right motivation, with the right why, getting financially healthy for the sake of advancing God's kingdom. More resources go out so more people can hear the gospel. So yes, I do focus on ministers, and I run into this frustration quite a bit, and so my encouragement to them is to steward whatever God has entrusted you with. Look, to some he gives more, to some he gives less, but to all he requires stewardship. In the parable of the talents, or the parable of the servants, the one who was given two turned the 2 bags of silver or 2 talents into 4 was just as celebrated as the one who turned 5 into 10. See, they received the exact same celebration, right? Well done, good and faithful servant. So it doesn't matter how much you have, whatever you've been given, you're supposed to steward that well. And so God does not give everybody the same amount. That's not part of his divine plan for reaching every tongue, tribe, and nation around the world. And so you just steward what you have. And so with helping with pastors that maybe feel out of control in their finances, one of the first things that we start talking about is their budget, their blueprint for mission. And I call it a blueprint for mission because I believe that God has entrusted us with his resources for his purposes, for his mission. And so let's call it a blueprint for mission, because that's what it is. And so we help them get that together. Why? Because there's an immediate impact. When you have some type of plan, you have the money milestones, that's a type of plan, but then you also have your blueprint for mission, that's another type of plan. Suddenly feel more in control of your finances. Why? Because you're actually more in control of your finances. Like you know where things are going, and so you immediately feel better about yourself. You immediately feel less stressed about your finances. And so that's one of the areas that I regularly talk to ministers and pastors about, is their blueprint for mission, and helping them steward whatever God has entrusted them with.
All right, so let's talk about the temptation of risk. So you're not making a whole lot of money. You're able to put food on the table. And you're able to pay your bills, but there's just not a whole lot left over. So some church member or some person from the community comes to you and says, "Hey, I've made a lot of money in Bitcoin," or "Hey, I've made a lot of money in," name your risky investment.
Right.
there's a temptation to that because I guess that's why more poor people play the lottery, because it's maybe this is my shot. What would you tell a pastor? And I know that we have to be careful about financial advice and telling people how to invest their money, but just in terms of the temptation of risky investments, in order to make up the difference, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah. So one, the stories that you hear about people making a gajillion dollars off of a particular investment, those are the outliers. Like those are the stories that happen to the very few, the vast majority of people for that same investment are losing money because they get into that too late. And so as it relates to risk, if an investment can skyrocket in a very short period of time, it can plummet in a very short period of time. That's how those things work. That's we saw that with AMC. It's a stock. We saw it with some other investments. We saw it with Bitcoin. If it's going up quickly, it could keep going up, or it could plummet just as quickly. And so you want to be careful. And this is why I recommend. And I know we can't give specific investment advice, but you want to diversify your investments, meaning that you're going to spread them out over a variety of different stocks and bonds. And what that does is it minimizes your risk, so that if one company tanks, you have 1,000 other companies that have not tanked. And so we want you to make sure that you diversify your investments and don't chase after. The Bible actually talks about chasing after fast money, right? It warns us about that in Proverbs. And there's for good reason, because when you do that, you run the risk of losing a lot of money. And so stay away from the high risk investments, because when it's high risk, that means that there's a major downside to it, not just a major upside.
So, and I think that's great advice. And it's something that I try to stay away from the risky investments myself, only because when you experience that huge dip and you lose a lot of money, you're putting an undue burden on the church. Because a lot of churches, not every church, I'm sure there's plenty of horror stories out there, but a lot of churches want to take care of their pastors, at least as best they can.
Right.
And so if you are being too risky, and everyone has a different risk tolerance, of course, but if you're being too risky with your money, or reckless with your money even, you're actually placing an undue burden on your church. And it's something that I would advise against as well. All right, so pastors are notoriously bad with their money. It's just reality. But there are plenty of congregations that may not be good with money either. If let's say you're a pastor, you care about this issue, which you should, because as you said, Jesus talked about money more than just about anything else. How do you inform your congregation about healthy financial matters? What would you do to get your church connected to best practices with money?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I talk to a lot of pastors that are just hesitant to talk about finances for a variety of reasons. Maybe they don't want to feel like fundraisers, right? They don't want to be grouped into put into that a small group of pastors that abuse the pulpit for financial gain. They don't want to run off people in their church. And many of them, as you've already mentioned, are struggling with their finances as well. They're in the boat with everyone else, and so they don't have the confidence that they would like to have to be able to talk about finances. Maybe some of them don't even understand it. And so my encouragement to them is to, one, we've already talked about it, recognize that the Bible talks about money a lot. And that if we're going to talk about what Jesus talked about, we have to talk about finances. Two, recognize that when you're talking about money, you're really talking about heart issues. And so it's all everybody in your church is affected by money in some way. And many people are really struggling in your congregation. And so if you don't talk about it from the pulpit, from a biblical standpoint, they're going to go and find advice elsewhere. And it's probably going to come from a from a perspective that you would not like them learning about money from, a very worldly perspective. So understand that. And then if you struggle with your finances, take just one step. Once again, I've mentioned the 8 money milestones. Go after that next money milestone. I've found that if you take one step in your finances, that suddenly you feel a lot more confident in your finances and your ability to talk about it. And so take that one step. Now, here's the thing: we're working, and in fact, it's in production right now. We're working on a program called the 8 Money Milestones. I've already mentioned the 8 Money Milestones, which, by the way, if you're wondering, okay, what in the world is Art talking about here? Go to christianmoneysolutions.com/free resources. christianmoneysolutions.com/free resources. There's 6 free PDFs that you can download. In fact, most people just binge download them all. That first one is an 8 Money Milestones guide. Walks you through these 8 money milestones. There's a checklist at the end. It's a 7-page PDF. Go ahead and get it completely free. But we're working on a program. It's a 6-week small group video-based program that walks through those 8 money milestones. It's heavy on the Bible, so it's very, very biblical, but it's also very, very practical. And so with those who walk through this program will understand what Scripture says about money. They'll have a better understanding of why God has entrusted us with this financial resource to begin with. And they're also going to understand what I need to do next, how to get out of debt, how to build your blueprint for mission, how to save for your emergency fund, how to save for retirement, how to save for college, what type of life insurance do you need? How much life insurance do I need? All of those questions are going to be answered. Now, here's the thing. It's not just a financial health program. I want to be very clear about that. This program is geared not just to get somebody financially healthy. That's not the end. Financial health, according to the Bible, is never the end. It is a means to a much greater end. That is to find yourself in a place where you can live and give more generously, where we can say yes more instead of not yet when it comes to leveraging our resources for the advancement of God's kingdom. So from the very beginning, we said if somebody knows how to get financially healthy by the end of this program, but they don't find themselves closer to Jesus, they don't find themselves taking another step toward being a generous disciple, then we failed. This program is meant to get somebody financially healthy, but more importantly than that, when they finish the program, they should feel like their walk is deeper with Christ, and they are taking another step toward being a generous disciple. And so that's the goal of this program. I'm really excited about it. And I know I've already given you one website. Let me give you another. It's 8moneymilestones.com. So 8moneymilestones.com. If you go there, you can sign up for just updates on this program. It's set to be released in January of 2024. But once again, you can get those updates as we, give you some exciting information, insider information. If you sign up for that newsletter, it's once again 8moneymilestones.com.
All right. Thank you, Art, for joining us here on EST. We also want to thank our sponsor, Upward. Upward is one of the best at what they do. If you want to use sports as a bridge into the community, they are your partner. And we hear it all the time at Church Answers. Hey, how do I get connected to my community? How do I reach my community? How do I have an opportunity to share the gospel with my neighbors? Upward is the one who can help you. As the world's largest Christian youth sports organization, Upward Sports desires to come alongside you and your church to advance your mission and promote Jesus by using sports as a ministry tool. You want to reach families, you want to reach kids, you want to be there in the neighborhood as a presence. Upward Sports is your partner. Absolutely love what they do. You don't even need a gym. If you've got a field or a parking lot, they can work with you to bring sports to your church ministry. So go to upward.org/churchanswers. Again, upward.org/churchanswers, and they will get you connected. So thank you all for joining us here today on EST. We will see you again next week.
Upward Sports equips churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their communities. Whether you're a sports fanatic or on staff at a church, Upward Sports will give you all the tools you need to run a first-class sports ministry that allows you to reach families in your community. Upward Sports offers basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball through league and camp offerings. At Upward Sports, we want to help your church make a difference and give you increased opportunities to share the gospel. Learn more today at upward.org/churchanswers.